Before the Billions, before the Mavericks, before Shark Tank made him a household name, Mark Cuban was broke, sleeping on a friend's couch, and getting fired for doing his job too well. And somehow, that moment was exactly what he needed. In less than a decade, he went from unemployed to selling a startup for over $5 billion. And now, he's owned an NBA team, transformed how people stream media, and is trying to overhaul the US pharmaceutical industry. This is the story of Mark Cuban, a college dropout, now an internet billionaire, a loud, relentless hustler who hacked the system and never looked back. Mark Cuban was born on July 31st, 1958, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to a working-class Jewish family. His father, Norton Cuban, was an automobile upholsterer who worked long hours.
My dad busted his ass. He worked six days a week, left at 7:30 in the morning, got back at 6 or 7 o'clock.
Mark has often said that while they weren't poor, money was always tight. From the very beginning, Cuban showed an appetite for work. At age 12, he began selling garbage bags door to door in order to buy a pair of expensive basketball shoes.
That was my first business, the world's first, probably only, garbage bag door-to-door subscription company.
It was his first lesson in sales, and it stuck. I asked my dad for the shoes, Cuban later said.
He looked at me, looked at my feet, and he goes, "Those tennis shoes you got on, they work. When you have a job, you can buy whatever you want." And he goes, "Hey, I got something you can sell. I got all these boxes of garbage bags. Why don't you sell them in the neighborhood, and then you can take the money you make and buy your sneakers?"
He moved on to selling stamps and baseball cards. Cuban quickly learned how markets work. Prices go up and down, demand shifts, and timing is everything. He wasn't just hustling for fun. He was learning the blueprint to business. At age 16, Cuban skipped his senior year of high school to start taking college courses full-time at the University of Pittsburgh. After a year, though, he transferred to Indiana University, not because of the prestige, but because it was the most affordable school in the top business programs. While at Indiana, Cuban was always working. He gave disco dancing lessons, hosted parties, and even ran a chain letter business. He was making hundreds of dollars per weekend, often more than his professors. But he still wasn't the best student. He skipped classes, hustled nonstop, and partied even harder. Still, he graduated in 1981 with a degree in business administration. After college, Cuban moved to Dallas with just a few $100s. He slept on the floor of a friend's apartment and worked as a bartender. He then got a job as a salesman at a software store called Your Business Software. But there was one problem. Mark didn't know anything about computers, so he taught himself. He read manuals, asked questions, and within a few weeks, he wasn't only knowledgeable, he was outperforming everyone. One day, he left the store to meet up with a potential customer and closed a $15,000 deal. But when he came back, his boss told him he wasn't authorized to leave and fired him. "I had just closed their biggest deal ever," Cuban recalled, "and they fired me. That's when I decided to do it myself."
Everybody's got something that they're good at, and the hard part is just finding it.
In response, he launched a company called Micro Solutions. It offered networking and software solutions to local businesses. Cuban started this business with no outside funding. He did cold calls all day, tech support all night. Eventually, Micro Solutions hit $30 million in revenue. In 1990, Cuban sold the company to CompuServe for $6 million. After taxes, he only walked away with $2 million. For most people, though, that would be the end of their story. But for Cuban, he was just getting started. In 1995, Cuban and his college buddy Todd Wagner launched AudioNet. The idea was simple: stream audio of college basketball games over the internet. The technology, not so simple. The internet was still new. Streaming audio was unreliable and laggy. But Cuban was betting on the future. He invested millions of his own money, hired a small team, and built the infrastructure themselves. They rebranded to Broadcast.com and expanded into music, news, and live events. In 1998, Broadcast.com went public. Its stock surged 250% on day one. A year later, Yahoo bought the company for $5.7 billion in stock. Cuban quickly protected his shares using smart investing strategies. So when the dot-com crash hit and Yahoo stock dropped, Cuban was already out, with his money safe. He walked away a billionaire. Now wealthy beyond imagination, Cuban turned his attention to his childhood dream, owning a sports team. In 2000, he bought a majority stake in the Dallas Mavericks for $285 million. At the time, The Mavs were one of the worst teams in the NBA. Attendance and morale were at an all-time low. But Cuban changed everything. He sat courtside at every game, upgraded the locker rooms, hired analytics staff, and flew the team on private jets. Players respected him, fans loved him, the league, not so much. Cuban racked up millions in fines for criticizing refs in the NBA. But he didn't care. He wasn't just an owner, he was a competitor. In 2011, the Mavericks defeated LeBron James in the Miami Heat to win the NBA championship. That moment meant more to Cuban than any billion-dollar check.
If you're going to be great at something, you've got to make the effort to be great at something.
In 2009, Mark Cuban joined Shark Tank as one of its lead investors. The show became a phenomenon, and Cuban was its most recognizable figure. He brought a no BS attitude, honest critiques, and big money offers. Over the 12-plus seasons, he invested in more than 85 companies, including Dude Wipes, Beatbox Beverages, Rugged Maniac, and 1031 Productions. He didn't just write checks. He mentored founders, leveraged his network, and scaled businesses fast. Cuban once said, "I'm not investing in the business, I'm investing in the entrepreneurs." In 2022, Cuban launched Cost Plus Drugs, a pharmacy offering prescription medications at drastically reduced prices. The business model was simple: transparency. Cuban priced drugs at a cost plus of 15% markup. No middlemen, no insurance games, just fair pricing. He said, "If you're a billionaire and you can't make people's lives better, what's the point?" The company took off and now offers hundreds of drugs and partners with healthcare providers around the country. Cuban has also made bold bets in the crypto space. He was early on Ethereum, backed NFT platforms, and pushed for Web3 adoption. But not every bet paid off. One of the crypto projects he supported, Iron Finance, collapsed, leading to major losses. Cuban owned it though. "I got hit like everyone else," he said. In 2023, he announced he was leaving Shark Tank after season 16, not to retire, but to shift focus. His next targets? Healthcare reform, AI, maybe even politics. So what made Mark Cuban different? He wasn't born into money. He wasn't the smartest guy in the room. He didn't have investors or safety nets, but he worked harder, longer, and smarter. He stayed curious, he read constantly, and he treated every problem like a puzzle. Cuban said, "Work like someone is trying to take it all away from you," because they are. Today, his net worth sits above $4.6 billion, but his greatest asset has never been the money. It's his mindset. If this video inspired you, subscribe for more deep dives into the minds of modern entrepreneurs. Mark Cuban followed the business blueprint, and you should too.